is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 213. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E. He's sitting here on a Sunday, cold. Austin, Texas. I don't know what is up with this in the first week of April, but I do know what was up with last night. For me, overall, fantastic night for the North End boys here. I know we want to talk a little bit about that, but Austin FC can't get the job done at home. Do pick up a point against Portland Timbers, so of course we'll get into all of that. But before we get into anything, I got to ask you, my friend. I see you cheersing the little sparkling water there. How are you feeling?
I'm hurting a little bit. It was a late one last night. A lot of excitement after the game. My brother had a wonderful time at the match, his first game. I definitely wanted to get a dub for him, but those will come in time here. Looking back at this matchup with Portland here, I think I'm satisfied with this point. I think that they were probably the better team overall last night, and they're much better than I thought they were. Santi Moreno is a very, very good player, and it was on full display last night. So very glad we did not talk a whole lot of shit on the preview match before they came to play us, because I was impressed with how they looked last night, and I'm excited to talk about this game here.
Yeah, man. It was just a really fun night outside of not getting the 3 points when the final whistle blew, but not just Debo coming in and having a great time. And I know I told him and you after the match that, I knew it was going to be awesome when we walked right to the section, to come down the stairs in 123, and Dalton just goes, "These are where the seats are?" I was like, yes.
Yeah.
But also, speaking of seats, shout out to our buddy Tom, who once again donated some tickets. He couldn't make the match, so instead of selling them, very, very generous to charge us with running a little giveaway there on the morning of the match. So gave away those tickets. Shout out again to Tom. For us, in our tickets, shout out to our boy Big Fudge for the little trade, right? So we got Debo sitting there right next to us. And then shout out to the North End Pirates, who we show up and we sat down in the 5th minute, I think. We missed the first 3 shots, which were the only 3 shots really of the first half, I think, for Austin. But right when we sit down, Pirates come up there, give Debo a scarf, a shirt, making him feel at home. That was super awesome. So lots of shouts outs today here to begin the podcast. A little bit tired here as well. The festivities did go on late into the night. But yeah, man, it was weird because I similar to the Colorado match where we did lose, getting back to the game a little bit. I just haven't felt the dread that I have in the past from both draws and losses at home. So I don't know. I think just the surroundings and what else was going on with us and our personal lives was affecting that some, but I also think, and we can get into some of this obviously after the match when we kind of read through some of what the players had to say afterwards. But it's the sky is not falling on either the loss against Colorado or the draw last night. And I think it's just my confidence in this group because it looks different, even if the result didn't go our way. But we'll of course get into all of that just before we get into the actual game here. Want to remind you all, whether you're listening on the audio versions or watching on the YouTube channel, that the best way to support the show, or you can support us financially, by downloading all the audio versions of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. You can toggle on auto downloads. You'll support the North End Podcast going forward. You don't have to think about it again. You can also go the extra mile. If you throw a rating and a review onto the podcast wherever you get your pods, that also helps us grow the show, as does hitting the subscribe button if you are watching on the YouTube channel. You can also hit that notification bell. That'll tell you when a new episode pops up or a live stream goes live. And of course, here on episode 213, hit the thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords and atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. So coming off of the wacky schedule the last couple of weeks where we've got day games, we've got Sunday games and the like. We had our preview podcast for the Portland match on Thursday. We already heard from Coach Nico and his press availability. We talked about what BHI said in terms of how they were going to approach this game defensively. So I don't think we really need to rehash too much of that. We did, however, on Friday have a surprise pop up on the injury report. And I got to be honest, man, Diego Rubio missing with a hamstring injury last night. He is somebody I think we very much could have used at the end of that game. So any thoughts there on Diego? Hopefully in the midweek this week, we'll get an idea on, what the prognosis is for Diego. Is this a Dessler-esque 2 months, or is this just a little bit of a tweak and maybe more precautionary? Obviously, we're hoping it's the latter.
Yeah, I think we could have benefited from having him last night. I did think that the substitutions were a bit peculiar. I was very satisfied with the lineup. I liked having Danny in there.
Same 11, right, from St. Louis.
Yep. So I was happy with Danny in there. I thought Julio would get the start, but totally fine with Svatak in there. You saw that on full display where Brandon was talking about how we were going to be putting that line much higher up the field, and it was right from when we sat down. You could see those back four almost at midfield quite often during this matchup. So I was a bit perplexed with the substitutions, but I thought this was a game that Rubio could have had an impact on for sure.
Yeah, and of course we can talk through those substitutions when they come up here in the minutes. And on that Portland side, again, pretty full strength lineup for them, I think, at this point, with Cabecita still out, of course, right? Kevin Kelsey has not taken over that starting striker position from Felipe Mora. You've got Moreno, Anthony, and DaCosta there filling out the attack. Sermon once again paired with Kamal Miller on that back line. And I guess physically, because we are up close and personal with that back line and James Pantemis there for the first half. Yaimer Fori is a lot bigger, or is it taller than I thought. Bigger, I think, of Juan Mascara. That guy's a unit, right? Yeah. But Fori was just a more sizable player than I thought he was going to be in person. So that stood out to me. And again, getting into this one, we're still up on the concourse for, like I said, I think all three of these, but 15 seconds in, immediate turnover at the back by Fori, who had some trouble, I think, settling into this one. And then I have some thoughts about how handsy he was being throughout this match after the rewatch, but turnover at the back. Buka takes it and drives into the Portland penalty area, then finds the foot of Brandon Vasquez, but Brandon sends it high and what looks like a little bit wide there on the replay. But again, if we were sitting down, I know something out of my mouth would be oh, it's a long night for you, Pantemis, or something like that. Here it comes. And 2 minutes later, Austin playing out of the back. Great ball over the top here by Danny, who I thought had another very, very solid game, another kind of under the radar type of performance, kind of holding things together there on both ends of the ball. Over the top by Danny here to Guilherme Biru streaking down that left, who plenty of times last night was kind of playing that pseudo left winger when we were getting into that final phase. And he gets onto this ball and just Biru's revenge sits Mosquera down. I am upset that we were not in our seats for that, because the equivalent of a crossover there, and whether it's a slick pitch or what have you, I don't care. That's always fun to see. And so then he gets kind of turned around, retreats towards the end line, and pops across towards the penalty spot, and it finds the head of Mirtu, and Azuni puts it just wide. And look, I just can't wait for more Azuni goals, because you can tell, not just with this attempt, but some in the past couple of games, and then specifically one that comes late in the second half, where this guy is just ready to explode. I think both with the counting stats of actually scoring the goals, and then just emotionally, we haven't had the death stare celebration yet that we know he's done with Granada, the big yelling celebrations in front of the supporters section. I'm ready for it. I know he is too, and I know that's not breaking news. All Austin fans are ready for Mir too to get cracking here.
Yeah, it's coming. It'll happen in due time here. Great individual performance by Biru on this play, like you said, just absolutely chops his man up there. Then a great ball into Azuni. And, you know, I'm going to live with that attempt every time. You know, I think he probably would want it back, but like still the margin from at which he missed was not much.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's in the right spot. Again, that's
Again,
what you
right
want to
spot.
see. Yeah.
Yep.
And 2 minutes later, BV steals the ball off of a Miller pass. It takes it down the right flank. He finds Osman, who drops it to Sabovic. And I'm glad we weren't in our seats for this one because Besar just completely shanks this one into like 124.
Yeah.
And then we sit down and like, I don't know if we were the coolers last night or what, because the game kind of becomes a stalemate, at least for the next like 20 or so minutes. And I think really kind of throughout the first half, maybe the end of the half, it starts to lean towards Portland's direction. But 20th minute here, Austin gets their first corner, and I think was the first corner of the match here. And I just wanted to mention, because watching the game back this morning, it reminded me of how annoyed I've become with the heartbeat sound effect on these corner kicks. We have a very strong fan base. Right? Mm-hmm. Is this something you have not noticed or just don't like it? Dude, it just, you can hear it on the broadcast. It overtakes the sound in the stadium. And our fan base is so loud in general to the point where Rodolfo Borrell wrote the fans an open letter about how loud they were on a corner kick last year against Houston. And now because the gimmick with our current home kit is the heartbeat kit, and like, again, I like those gimmicks. Like, it does get me more often than not. But this is too much gimmick for me. Cut out the heartbeat sound effect on these corner kicks. Let La Murga raise their level along with the fans who stand up, whether or not we need to be standing up on these corner kicks as the fan base, but like the energy level rises traditionally. And when you put that heartbeat sound effect over it, it just makes it a little less organic to me. And so I'm planting my flag. No more heartbeat sound effect. And I'm sure they will just turn it up even louder.
I don't like, I noticed it initially, but it doesn't bother me. At all.
Well, maybe I'm just being grouchy here after a draw. So 25th minute here. Odd spot for a free kick. Like right on the inline to the left of the goal in the north end here. And Owen's on it and puts it over everyone and out. And he can certainly do better there. I thought he had a little bit of a slow start to the match. Kind of worked his way into it. And then he was getting beat up at times too, by Forey and a couple other Timbers players. But on the restart here, after that poor free kick attempt, Pantemis is passing it around the back, and he tries to hit Ajala just outside of the Portland penalty area. Azuni and Danny close down very quickly and take it off him. Like, both guys probably could have tried to take it and score, but Azuni turns it into the box, and as he's getting ready to wind up and shoot, Ajala, I saw some shouts for a pen like after the fact, whether you're watching from a different angle in the stadium or on the broadcast. From our angle, fantastic tackle by Ajala. And like, you know, you stand up and you yell, and then you kind of think about it for a half second. You're like, you got to credit him there. Like, great recovery. And again, just kind of a bummer because like a half second more for Mirtu, and that one's going in the back of the net.
Yeah, absolutely. A fantastic defensive play. He gets the ball first, clearly, in my opinion. And we might have a little PTSD from Fisher being the ref last night. But
oh God, fuck
yeah, sorry. I guess you forgot about that. I was totally fine with no call here. Jumping back to some of the service last night, I think he hit it on the head with Owen. Had a slow start. Was looking a little shaky to start this game out, but I thought that he recovered pretty well. I do think the service on the corner kick and that short foul in a difficult spot for sure were both pretty poor. And the set pieces last night did not look the way that they need to look for this team who's struggling to score right now. You know what I mean? Like, you have the great defensive play by Ajala here on Mirtu. And like you said, this is probably going to be a goal if he gets it. But I think we can get some better looks off of the set pieces. And I thought that was something that I was pretty disappointed with last night.
I don't know if this was the case or not, but one of my hypotheses in the stadium last night was looking at the flags down there in the southwest corner and how much they were whipping, and especially the flags at the top of the supporter section that are being held by fans that are just completely going one direction in the higher up you went in the stadium last night. I think there was the worse the winds were. And I think some of the crosses that, again, both the set pieces and the crosses during live play, I think we could have done better. But I think some of those may have gotten picked up a little bit by the wind. The higher they went, some of those goal kicks too, you could see them really curving in the direction of those wind gusts. So that was just an added hurdle for both teams last night, right? Didn't give anybody an advantage. 28th minute, you get a yellow card here to Owen for taking out Mosquera, and definitely deserved it, kind of coming from behind a little bit, didn't get any part of the ball. So I didn't have any issues with that. But then as we go, I do start to get annoyed by Drew Fisher, 30th minute here. Austin building out from the back, and Hindsight tries to play Vasquez through. That ball is knocked back, I think, by Sermon towards Azuni. And Mirtu tries to get it out to Gallagher on the right, but Bukhari is in between those two. And this pass, I think, was definitely intended to go all the way out to Gallagher initially. And so Buka kind of like picks it off almost and then sends it out to Gallagher himself. And we end up getting, Gally's got time to pick out a spot here. He sends it to the back post, and Vasquez and Biru are there, and that ball floats harmlessly over both of those guys. And so I don't know if that ball gets there any sooner, that Johnny's service is any better. But the back line would have been more disorganized than it was if we have that extra second and a half, if Buka just lets that ball go through. And again, like, he wasn't stopping that as any sort of like ball hog or anything. I just don't think he thought it was intended for Johnny, but live and on the replay, it most certainly was.
Yeah, he's just seeing a ball with pace coming at him. He definitely didn't realize that was going to Johnny. But you're spot on right there. That's how I felt about it. I don't know if the service would have been better. I don't know if he would have scored. But I do know that their defense wouldn't have had the same amount of time to react to that pass that was supposed to be going to Johnny there. And you see Mirtu, I think he gives him a Buka a little something like, it's going wide or whatever. But we know he's a feisty character.
Yeah.
He sees everything.
Yeah. 36th minute here. Penalty shout for Brandon Vasquez as Forey gets his hands on him in the box, and Brandon goes down. There was not much in that. And I also thought it looked offside anyway. I was kind of surprised the flag didn't go up there. But, one of multiple PK shouts by the Austin faithful. And again, similar to, there was definitely more in this one than the first tackle by Ayala. But still, if I was on the other, if we were on the other side of this one, we would be raising hell.
Yeah, no, this would have been a soft one for sure. I don't think it was warranted.
So as the half starts to come to a close here, 41st minute, Portland really taking the momentum into the half. Their most dangerous moment yet, I think, here. Great flick from Felipe Mora to Santi Moreno, and all of a sudden, Timbers approaching the box on a break here. Both Guilherme and Brendan Hindsight track it down to break it up, but then that ball kind of pops free, and here comes Mora following the play, and he gets out free to the right, 14 yards out, and Brad made a good read here, I think, to come out and make himself bigger, make the target smaller, makes the save, but that gets deflected out to Mosquera, and he tries to tap it towards the open net, and not nearly enough power on it to get past. I think Biru and Hindsight were both kind of back there defending the goal line, but Biru gets it out of danger. But again, you're settling in. Like I mentioned, the word that came to mind to me both last night and this morning is stalemate. And there were a couple moments throughout the match here where that stalemate was almost broken. And this was one of the strongest, certainly in the first half for the opponent.
This was definitely a great look for them. Shout out to Brad, who I think was the best player on the pitch last night for us. I think he, a reason why we're happy about this single point is because Brad made a lot of very solid plays. The Mosquera attempt, weak, had no chance. We had two guys back there. Again, this defensive unit is playing really great right now. I don't know if there's been a better defensive unit across the entire league when you look at what we've done throughout the course of this season, only sitting on 3 goals given up, one of which is the fluky DaCosta goal from the first time we played this Portland team. So this back line is locked in, and it's been impressive to see because not only do we have Biru and Johnny flanking those 2 center backs who are fantastic together at this point in time, where we can get those guys out in space. Like, we have some athleticism on those wings as well. And we know Biru's willingness to get into the fold. We know Johnny's willingness to get into the fray there and everything like that. So just a huge, huge shout out to this defense. And I know we want goals. And I know that, like this has been, when we were previewing this season, looking at this team, it's like, we might not be good, but we're going to score a lot. You know what I mean? Right. That was our take. It was like, we're going to be partying all the time. But to see what this team actually looks like, and I don't know if we're playing too conservative, too defensively, and that could be hampering our offensive output right now. But I'm going to take points, like I said last week, all the time over scoring 5 goals and losing 6-5, what have you, some astronomical output and everything like that. So another super impressive performance by the entire defensive unit, including Bradley Scott Stuver. And I think you see in the second half where Portland starts to ramp it up a little bit more, that we were still able to hold our shell, hold our form, and get out of some sticky situations that weren't overly challenging for the team. So I'm very happy with this defensive performance.
Yeah, and then 43rd minute here right before the half where we did not have any stoppage time. And I thought that was fair. Maybe one of the better calls by Fisher on the night, but in the 43rd minute, Forey takes Owen down and they call the foul, but Fisher doesn't go to his pocket. And I thought he should, because maybe this foul was not identical to what Owen Wolff did 20 minutes before to get that yellow, but it was very, very similar. And so I thought Owen had a gripe, a bone to pick there that I would have backed him up on, but no dice.
Yeah. Just say the word, Owen. We'll definitely shout at Drew Fisher, flip him off a bunch. No worries there. I think part of their game plan last night was to be physical with Owen. I think that the league is somewhat on notice in regard to what he brings to our team, how good he's been to start this season. And one way that they're going to play him, and I think going forward, he's going to have to deal with this, is he's going to be getting hit. And they're going to be incredibly physical with him. You saw it on display, I think 3 or 4 times where like he just is getting fouled. He's going down. They got hands all over him. He's not a very big guy. And this, like you said, we're talking about this Portland team, their back line had some size.
Yeah, and you can tell that it was getting to him last night too, even here in the first half. And like maybe, I hope not, but maybe that's going to start to be a trend like we've seen teams do to Danny in the past, where like guys who, if you show that teams can get in your head by being physical, like other teams are going to notice that. So hopefully that is not a trend that we see develop here. And then we go to the half with no stoppage time. In the 50th minute here, coming out of the break, no changes for either side, but this is where I really start to get upset with Fisher, because I thought this was a BS call on Gallagher here, where Anthony is holding him off, and I thought John beat him around his right side, and Anthony's outstretched arm like grabbed Johnny, and Johnny was definitely expecting to get that call as well, but it goes Portland's way, and they don't get anything off that free kick. It was, 10, 15 yards, top left of the penalty area there, but Portland stays in possession after the free kick, and Moreno unleashes, to this point, the most dangerous shot of the night, goes right at Stuver. Actually, this first one, not right at Stuver. He tries to bend this one around, Brad. Great diving save here by Stuver, and parries that one all the way out, like 20 yards out, right side of the area, or right center, because it's right to Mosquera, and he blasts it back towards Stuver, and he punches that one away as well. And now Biru is able to clear. But man, coming out of the break, Portland continued the momentum that they had started to build at the end of the first half.
I agree. This was a fantastic save by Brad. I think we got incredibly lucky that it might be Felipe Mora who's like cutting, and he just misses that ball like by a millisecond. If he redirects that is absolutely going in the back of the net. So got a little fortunate there. Hell of a play by Brad. Pop up, get another big save for us, get us out of the danger zone here. But yes, the second half I think belonged to Portland. I think that they outplayed us much more so in the second half than in this first half. Like you said, I think stalemate was a good word to describe that first half of this game, but this second half, they really ramped it up. They came out more focused than we were, and they were threatening from the jump.
So one thing that watching the post-game presser back today that I really appreciated that Coach Estevez shared was, he was asked about this kind of momentum swing here and Portland being able to make inroads and Austin looking a lot more disjointed, especially in possession. What Coach shared was that Portland started man-marking BV with one of their central midfielders and kind of cutting off Vasquez as the main outlet for us to try to break those lines. And it does, once we get to some of these subs, he also addressed how they adjusted to it and how he thought it helped them towards the end of the match. So the first change comes from Portland actually here, where Joao Ortiz goes down, look like some sort of soft tissue lower body thing, comes off. Diego Chara comes in, so you get Fresh, who, and I learned this on the replay because they were talking about it on the broadcast. He was the birthday boy yesterday, 39 years old.
Wow.
For Diego Chara, coming in the 58th minute. And then 4 minutes later, you get a yellow card to Sabovic, pulling down Santi Moreno on a break. And Sabo was not happy. He deserved the yellow for the foul, but I think I was with him in his gripes where, like, we're not getting the same calls from the officiating crew for similar contact. So yeah, again, second half, I started to get frustrated along with the fellas.
Yeah, I mean, look, Sabo's not afraid to mix it up for sure. I think the last two games in particular, he's taken some pretty decent shots. Like he's been not shots like hits. You know fouls. What I mean? Yeah, they've been physical with him. And again, same point with Owen. We know Sabo will get a little hot under the collar, and if it's affecting your play, that's a difficult thing to be trying to get past. And Portland was physical with us last night. So, I mean, I really tip my hat to them. I thought they played really, really well.
Well, and if getting under Sabovic's skin helps him do this, then look, man, be physical with Bessard because 64th minute, very slick move here, kind of like puts it behind himself, like almost like behind the back if I was playing basketball, to ditch a challenge here by Chara, and that kind of frees up some space for them to progress the ball up to Biru on the left. Biru plays a cutting Owen Wolf, who then drives that ball down the inline on the left side in the south end before it's knocked out for a corner. And again, just in the notes here, I'm sitting here bitching because the crowd, like if you go back to that play, 64th minute, because of the progression of the ball by the team, initiated by the saucy move by Sabovic, the crowd is rising. Everybody gets on their feet. Murga starts playing louder. And then all of a sudden, even on the broadcast, you can hear this fucking sound effect come in over everything. I don't like it. Flag planting today.
I can tell, man. It does not bother me.
So 2 minutes later, Sabovic definitely gets ball here on Santi Moreno, but he flops. Fisher calls it. Sabo upset again. And again, I just did my notes here. I said we're getting everything called on us, not letting us play. 68th minute, Heinzike. Okay, here, Heinzike clears one off the line as Ayala tried to go back post. And I don't know if this was going in the net necessarily, but he did curl it past Brad. And so Heinzike there he's got his keepers back. And that was huge. And then right after the clearance, I believe there was a handball call. And DaCosta gets a yellow card for blasting the ball right at Stuver. And it took, probably less time than I thought in the moment in that highly emotional state. But everybody around us stands up when DaCosta kicks that. Like, where's the yellow? It does come out. So at least Fisher got that one right.
I mean, look, we've heard this team preach, always having one another's back. You see it right here with BHI, who, I talked about the defensive unit as a whole. I want to single him out. When he came on last year and we're like, who is this dude? Yeah. And like, what's he bringing to the table? And then he continued to raise his level of play throughout the course of the season. He's been better this year than he was last year, which is impressive because he was fantastic last year. So to see him to continue this level of play is fantastic. And I also think it might hurt our checkbook a little later on if we want to keep him around because you're not getting him back for what is he at, 200K?
Well, yeah, but I mean, he's one of the guys that signed a new extension this offseason. So again, I expect him to have a raise, but like, is another one coming next offseason? Like, if he continues to play like this, he certainly will deserve one.
For sure.
And I think also too, like thinking about him, because no Ilie in the lineup, right? Running the same 11 out there. So Brendan's wearing the armband once again. It's kind of like, and he talked about this a little bit last year, right? Where his role was to kind of be an adult in the room there, bring his experience. And I think kind of this season with the 2025 iteration of Austin FC, he helps tie this team together, not just on the pitch, but like in the locker room and with his experience. Because this is not only a guy that knows MLS and has been around this league for multiple seasons, but he also played in Europe for multiple seasons earlier in his career. So he can connect on that level, right? I think speaks some Swedish as well, maybe some other languages if I recall correctly. But like to be able to connect with the guys who have played most of their career in Europe and help them along with like what happens in this league, helping their transition because of the travel and the weather and everything that comes along with being in MLS as a player. And then also helping along some of the young MLS guys and navigating their careers in this league domestically. So again, all that to say, I agree. Brendan has been fantastic and has raised his level this season. So getting back to this one to close things out, 70th minute, we start to see things change back in Austin's direction here. Danny wins a free kick to the right of the Portland penalty area, and Owen does put a good ball in here to the head of Svatok, but Alexander puts it just over the bar. And this is where we get Obrian in for Buka. And this is what Nico mentioned in the post-match presser is when they brought Hader in, they started to tell him, or they told him to start bringing yourself into the areas where Brandon is as well to kind of, right, 2-on-1 there where like we can just hit Hader and now we're off to the races. And that certainly worked well to alleviate some of that pressure and allow us to progress the ball forward through the closing moments of this match. I don't think I have any notes on this, but there's no less than 3 times where Hader plays a pass that is either to nobody or right to the other team. Again, he played fine, but like you were missing that kind of the accuracy in the decision making there on the fly, on the fast break. He can do better. We've seen him do better.
Yeah, the idea is fantastic. I love the idea behind this, to get him in here, have a speedy guy to create some advantage situations for us, but the execution was definitely lacking on Hader's part there. I want to jump back to when we saw that they went man mark on BV, and then add in the fact that we do think that the wind was impacting some of these balls that particularly had a little more loft on it. I remember distinctly 2 or 3 times being like, damn, BV gets that ball 9 times out of 10. Like he usually gets that ball. But the way that they were defending him paired with that, the wind, I think really impacted our ability to alleviate some of that pressure, which we have seen when we've been trying to hold on to leads versus San Diego and St. Louis as well, where it's been like he is our outlet to relieve pressure, and not being able to get that pressure out, like relieved consistently, I think took a toll on our ability to get out into transitional offense and try to get some scoring chances in the second half here. And I think that was a huge factor in the fact that we weren't able to put one behind Pantemis, who I also thought played quite well. Like when he was called upon, he had some big saves.
Well, hey, he's 180 minutes now of shutout goalkeeping against Austin this season. 74th minute here. Finally, Forey gets a yellow here. And like on the broadcast, they're wondering why. Like, dude, this is like his 6th or 7th foul this night. He could have had a yellow in the first half.
Absolutely.
You get Kevin Kelsey on up at the 9 for them with Mora coming off. And then a minute later, as the cards start to fly, I don't know. Fisher making up for lost time here. Anthony runs through Galley's back just outside the box. Nothing doing on that. Free kick. 80th minute. Biru whips a ball in towards what I think was an unbalanced Portland back line here, and Brandon Vasquez is in the area. Kamal Miller goes through his back. I think this was the strongest penalty shot on the night, but I also think that ball is like unreachable for Brandon. So like, I don't think it really affected the play one way or the other. And Austin stays on it. Galley runs it down on the right, and he fires the ball right back towards Vasquez, who gets up on his feet and heads it on frame. That was the first and only shot on target for Austin on the night, and Pantemis gets it out for a corner. And there's a fairly lengthy stoppage here. I think first checking the possible penalty, And then Fisher sorting out some, pushing and shoving in front of the net here before that corner. And we don't get anything off the corner. No penalty is called. I guess, what were your thoughts on that? Was that any closer to you to being a penalty? Because again, watching it back, like, if the cross is on target, I think yes, but it just wasn't. And so, like, I really had no issue with it in the moment or on the replay.
I mean, as much as I want to shit on Drew Fisher, I don't think that this was a PK. I think maybe if Brandon was a smaller guy and went down like that, you might have a better chance of
like
getting
Diego
that call.
Rubio, maybe.
Yes, potentially, yes. But I don't think there was nothing here. Good on BP for popping back up though and putting this one on net here. Would have been sweet to get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
83rd minute, double change for Austin. Dubrsarski and Jan Kolmanic come on for Biru and Sabovic. Double change for the Timbers, as well as Lassiter and Paredes come on for Moreno and Ajala. 85th minute, Owen does really well here to win a ball in the midfield. He slides it out to Jan Kolmanic, and Kolmanic whips in that left-footed effort right to the top of the box. And second ball, Azuni gets onto it and turns towards net. At first glance, it looks like he netmegs Diego Chara here. Ended up just kind of putting it right around him, but a very slick move nonetheless. Open space for a shot that I think Mirtu 100% thought was going in just based on his reaction. Curls it just over the target here. But, like, again, that is a flash of the individual brilliance that we know Azuni has. And, like, at some point, feels like soon, those are going to start falling. And, like, if you get one and you break that dam open, I don't know, man. They could start flooding in here. We have multiple games. Last night was not one, but we have multiple games so far where we should have had multiple goals. And the game where we did have multiple goals, we should have had more. So again, I'm still encouraged, if not slightly frustrated, right? Like, because and Nico kind of addresses some of this in the post-match comments where he says, let me grab this from Phil because I know he had a good write-up on this today. Coach says that I think it's important to value what we are doing. Humans always desire what they don't have. Right now, we are really solid on defense, and we are having more issues to score goals. And that's exactly how I feel. I think that is completely accurate in Coach describing my fan emotions right now.
Yeah, man, we're sitting in fourth place. I could give a shit if we're scoring a ton of goals. We're in fourth place right now. I think all this stuff will continue to gel. We are going to get more chemistry developed between our three DP players. So in due time, for sure. And like we can rest our hat on this defensive unit. And that defensive unit is also going to travel well. And, it can be very difficult to go get goals in away games. But if you bring a defensive team that can come in there and travel with that, that's huge for us. So I think this stuff will start rolling a bit here. Want to touch on the Azuni play here because, good Lord.
Imagine if that goes.
Oh, my God. I mean, like, it was, we're on the ride up and everything, and you're giving Dalton the fucking Austin FC entire
history
backstory from who voted yes at the meeting, who was part of the Big Seven, who got us the team, went through the Claudio Reyna era. He got everything. And God damn it, I forgot what I was going to say now because I just yes, I was like, and we don't have Seba anymore. But I was telling Dalton how talented and fun he was to watch when he was on and everything. And this was a very just a cheeky Seba type of play, except this guy actually wants to shoot and score. He let this thing go. Seba probably would have tried to pass that off, but what a rip, what an attempt. Chara got cooked twice. That boy got charred. Because good Lord, what just and like just like immediately saw it, did it, and didn't even break stride. It was just like, okay,
he meant to do it.
Absolutely, just skated right by him.
That shot goes in, man. You're renaming Town Lake the fucking Gulf of Albania. 89th minute here, closing it out. Austin really puts the heat on here in stoppage time, but in the 89th minute. Good pass from Dubrsarski to find Jean, making a run in behind on the left. And Kolmanic puts it in the mixer, finds the foot of Azuni, and his shot goes wide out for a goal kick. And Hader was kind of trailing that play. And if Azuni dummies it, Hader may have been able to put that in there. But I don't know how you could ever, if you're Azuni, have that communicated to you in that split second. So I no hard feelings there from me. Although Hader was certainly feeling some type of way about it. 90th minute, you get CJ on for Owen, and Wolf had been fighting through what looked like some cramps for like the final 15 minutes of his shift. And even despite that, I think you saw live there in the stadium that Owen didn't necessarily look too happy to be coming off. Second minute of stoppage, 5 are given. You get a yellow card to Galley for pulling back Lassiter. And dude, watching John's reactions to Drew Fisher, he might hate this guy more than us.
Yeah, he does not like Drew Fisher. And it all started because of that fucking terrible non-call with Anthony.
Yep, absolutely. Minute later, Danny picks up a loose ball in the final third, drags it like all the way across the top of the 18 from right to left, and takes a shot across his body that does force Pantemis to dive. On the replay, the shot was not super close, at least 6 feet to the right. But it certainly did get everybody on their feet for a second there.
And still just super encouraging stuff from Danny, and we gave him a hard time earlier in the season when he was not playing well. He wasn't right. He just was not in the right place. He has found that place again, and he looks really good. And again, still something that's even more encouraging for why I believe that we're going to get these goals rolling in a little bit here, because Danny's playing in his role is a lot different than it has been for his previous, was this year
5
for him?
Been here since day one, yeah.
So like the 4 years prior, he was playing a much different role than he is now. And we would be like, oh, well, maybe tonight's the game where we're going to let Danny play a little more up the pitch. Like maybe that's happening. It's happening now, and he looks really, really comfortable in it.
Yeah. And then at the death here, Portland wins a corner, and that corner is put right to the head of Kamal Miller, rising up towards that back left post, and Stuver bats it away to preserve the point. And again, like I think John Gallagher says it at post-match here to Phil and Moises, that he says it's probably a fair result. They had 1 or 2 looks at goal just like we did. It was a pretty even contest. It just felt like 2 boxers taking jabs at each other. And then he said, it's not the end of the world. It's a point. It's a long season. And maybe in another world, we're careless and we lose that game. We'll take the point and move on. Yeah, Johnny, we have lived in that world, my friend. It's the last 2 years.
Yeah, this was, I was just thinking back to LAFC. This is reminiscent of Kai Kamara rising up on us at the death to get the goal. But I think that's a spot on assessment by Johnny there. The right result. You know what I mean? Like,
a fair result.
Honestly, it should have been 2 0-0 matchups between both of these teams now. You know what I mean? The world existed where we were unlucky and were sloppy in the first Portland matchup. The communication wasn't right. Our line was probably not at the right spot that it needed to be. Brad was a bit hesitant. They get that fluke goal. So like this should be a 1-1. A point and a point in both of those games. So I'll definitely take it here. I think it was the right result for both teams.
44% possession for Austin at the end of this one. 12 shots to 11 in favor of the Timbers as we pull the stats on FOTMob up here on the YouTube. 6 on target to 1, though, in favor of the Timbers, and 6 corners to 4 in favor of the Timbers as well. That XG on FOTMob's model here from Opta, 1.1 XG for Austin, 0.45 for Portland. But the expected goals on target, again, tells that kind of more accurate story here, I think. 0.18 on target for Austin, 0.58 on target for Portland. And then if you pull up the MLS stats here from the Blue Sky account of Sebastian Bush, shout out to him once again. You look at that ASA, XG 0.74 for Austin to 0.46 for the Timbers. And you can see in terms of Austin, their shots, 6 of those 11 shots were graded as poor XG chances. 4 of them were average and just 1 to the good. But Portland's 9 were poor, 3 were average. So again, you see the defense limiting Portland to these average or worst shot attempts. And going back to what you said about, this matchup this season probably should have been 2 draws. looking at the defense on the road as a whole, the defense has only given up that one, what I think is kind of fair to say, a fluke goal. Like you could be sitting on 3 road clean sheets here to begin the month of April. So again, just the and I think we were talking to our buddy Daniel and Tucker and Hudson out there outside of the gates after the match, and kind of I feel like we kind of came to the consensus, right, where it's like the offense is still a little bit frustrating, but the defense was great again last night.
It's been great all season long. So, again, take this result. I think it was the right result here. I'm interested to get your thoughts on the substitutions. I thought it was curious that we didn't see Julio. Thought it was curious that we didn't see Ilya.
Yeah. Oh, so I actually had made more of a mental note here on this, and I don't know if this, is the case at all. But on the broadcast towards the end of the first half, they showed the Austin substitutions warming up down there in the south end on the end line, and Ilya was not down there. And so I'm kind of wondering if this was just like he was not going to play, like that was the intention from the start. Because I just don't know why everybody else but Cleveland would be up down there stretching before the half and Ilya would not be. So he may have been in a more break glass in case of ultra emergency last night. Because we did see Dubrsarski come on. But you also mentioned Julio, and that's what we were discussing kind of mid-second half, is like maybe you can bring Julio in for Svatak here, and that could help the offense to close out this match. But I don't know if it was curious to me or not, because again, like they were being solid. Like it's not like we needed Julio to come in to shore up, perceived holes at the back that were starting to form. So I don't think I had any issues with it, but my biggest question is, was Ilya, did we ever have the intention of him seeing the field last night? Because I'm leaning no.
I'm going to have to lean no as well, which I think is a bit odd. I think also because I don't want to say that Nico felt like relegated to a 0-0 draw for this game, but I thought you could have gotten a bit more offensive with your subs, particularly with Julio. And I'm not upset about it. I'm just wondering what was going through Nico's head here, if he was going to be content with just getting a point, because I think it was around the 65-minute mark. I think I turned back to you and was just like, let's get some fresh bodies in here. Like, let's see something a little else. We've seen those two teams just taking jabs at one another. Let's see what we can do to kind of try to change that script. But I think we were content with how we played, and I'm fine with that. I was just wondering if there was anything else to it.
When you see the goals added ratings here from ASA as well, Danny topping the list once again there with the 61. Osman right behind him, then Mirtu Izuni in terms of the top 3 there. And if we're looking at some of the other metrics here, field tilt 61-39 in favor of Portland. That makes some sense to me. And then we look at the line of confrontation, and Austin's higher than the average at 40.6 essentially. So we're averaging 35.8 meters from the end line. So you did see that higher line. And going back to the first half, right, when you kind of pointed it out that we were seeing that, you also saw Svatak and Heinz like multiple times physically waving guys, get higher. So that was clearly a point of emphasis coming into this one, and you see it in the stats here.
And I think,
again, go ahead.
With time, I do think this is going to benefit the offense a lot more. I think because like we're just seeing it kind of get integrated now a bit more. You see the numbers here where how high we were last night. And then I think when you add in the factor of Julio and what he brings to the offensive side of the ball, particularly in possession, his ability to get into the corners, in the box and on corners and mix it up a little bit, find some goals every now and then, I think that's going to be a really positive thing for this team. So all in all, incredibly satisfied with, well, maybe not incredibly satisfied with the point. We live to play another day here. Very long season, a lot of games left to go.
Yeah, a couple other comments from the post-match activities. Coach did open up with his first answer to, I believe, Colby Gordon from the Statesman. He said, sometimes I feel like you guys underestimate the opponents. And then kind of dove into the Timbers. Like, how many MLS Cups have they won? How many finals have they played? How many have they hosted? Yeah, I see you pointing at yourself there. He said, I think sometimes we have to respect the history. We have to respect the opponents. And we have to know how hard it's going to be. It looked like a playoff game today, the style of play, the energy, and the duels. And I thought that's probably fair. Like it did look kind of similar to me, like the beginning parts of the match against RSL a few years back, right? We don't have too many playoff games in our club's history to pull from. Hopefully we're adding some soon. But I thought Coach, again, it was a very pleasant post-match, even in a result that was ultimately a letdown for what we wanted out of, every home match you want to win. Yeah. But being able to still get the point and not drop it, as Johnny pointed out, like that's also important in the grand scheme of things during this long season.
And I think that, honestly, that answer he gave kind of gives me some answers to the questions I had. He was treating that like a playoff game, and he had the guys that he trusted. You know what I mean? And like he was going to stay the course. So I'm totally satisfied with how this was approached and like how we approached this game and the substitutions after hearing that little clip, or not clip, like that, whatever you had to say there.
Yeah. And then Mir too as well said, "This is my job, so I'm living for that." Talking about, scoring goals. I came here to score goals to win. So for me, it's painful when we are not winning and I'm not scoring. But then he said, "I think we are in a good way. 3 wins and a draw. So I think we're doing a good job, but we also have a lot of things to be better. We know that, so we're working to be better." And again, so similar refrain here from a lot of the guys. But again, I think it's kind of like, right, going back to what Johnny said, like we'll take the point and we'll move on. And moving on means the Vancouver Whitecaps next week, who are in first in the Western Conference after taking another 3 points last night at home. I believe they beat the Rapids, I think 2-0. Yep. So we're going up north of the border, up there to BC Place with their, 2 ceilings or canopies or whatever we call it here. And so if you're not making the trek northward, you can make the trek to East Austin. Los Verdes watch party here for the Vancouver match. Interesting start time. Once again, a 6:30, which we're plenty used to for a road match, especially going out east. But for the early, it's a 4:30 local start time there in Vancouver. So it'll be 6:30 kick here in Austin. The party will start at 5 p.m. and the party this coming Saturday is at Southern Heights Brewing Company, which is at 6014 Techno Center Drive. For those not super dialed in on their East Austin maps there, kind of like 183 MLK area over there for this one. So again, that party's going to get started at 5 at Southern Heights Brewing. Got an indoor setup with multiple TVs there, open to all ages. There's free parking. We're going to have food trucks on site, member drink specials for Los Verdes members. And I think the first time this has happened this season for these parties, La Murga will be there. So going to be a party at Southern Heights Brewing next Saturday. We'll, of course, talk more about this on Wednesday's preview episode, but did just want to mention that out there here as we start to turn our attention towards Vancouver.
Oh, that sounds fantastic, man.
Come on down to Farmer Field where the champions play. Get ready for the game. It's Last Business Day.
Last Business Day here to close out episode 213, and we do have a little bit of Austin FC2 news here. Mutual contract termination between the club and winger Anthony Garcia. This was announced after we recorded our Thursday episode, so picking it up here today. Garcia, 21 years old, made 7 appearances last year for FCTO, started 3 times, scored 1 goal. Who knows what's going on here? Could be playing time, could be an attitude thing. We never saw enough of Anthony for me to really feel one way or the other about this. So I wish him best of luck going forward wherever his next stop is. But no more Anthony Garcia on Austin FC2.
Yeah, I share the sentiments. He could just not get – he was just unable to find his footing here. And sometimes it'd be like that. So wish him well. And, hopefully he has a long career elsewhere.
Yeah. Anything else for you, E, before we shut it down here on a Sunday?
Nah.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate everybody tuning in sticking with us here in episode 213 of the North End Podcast. We'll be back on Wednesday previewing Austin FC's road match against the first place Vancouver Whitecaps, previewing Austin FC 2's home match against defending champion North Texas SC. Of course, talking the nonsense and everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe. Between now and then, enjoy the beginning of your week, everybody. We'll do the same, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday for another episode of The North End. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye. The MLS season is here. If you want to make some picks on your favorite players in sports, check out Underdog Fantasy's Pick'em game. You choose higher or lower on between 2 to 8 players, and you can win up to 1,000 times your entry. Underdog is available in 33 states, including right here in Texas. To sign up, click the link in the description of this video and use promo code NORTHEND at sign up, and you'll get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick to get you started. So join the millions of fans who have won billions on Underdog.